Hello, everyone. To start with, my name is Ana Margarida. Just to explain you how we will work. So for now, you will probably realize that you have your cameras and your microphone off. And this is on purpose because, as you can see, we have quite a big number of participants at this webinar. In order for you to focus on the presentations, we have decided that we will turn them on a little bit later on when we go to the question and answer part, okay? If you have any questions, difficulties, comments, you can use the chat for that. So the conversa in Portuguese. Please share your questions there, and we will have some colleagues who are trying to answer your questions as well during the webinar. So even though we believe that you should focus on the presentations first, because most of your questions will probably be answered by the presentations we will deliver, you know you already have this option of using the chat during the webinar, also for technical questions such as the one Danielle shared with us. Then we will have a question and answer session at the end. We will first have the presentations, and then at the end we will open up the room for you to participate and place your questions in live voice. And in order to do that, we will ask you to raise your hand so that we can order the interventions. So we will give you the floor based on the order that you have raised your hand, okay, in the end. And by then, once we grant you the permission to speak, you will turn on your microphone, and if you want, your camera as well, okay? You will be allowed to do so by then. And this would be it from my end, and I will pass it on to my colleague, Dora.
I would like to start with the agenda. So I will talk about a little bit about what is EURES. And of course, then I will pass on to our colleagues from Denmark. So Dina and Jorgen, and also Matthias, that will be representing working in Denmark. And after that, Wojtek and Kat from Novo Nordisk, that we are eager to listen. So okay, so about EURES. EURES stands for European Employment Services. So our mission is to facilitate transnational and cross-border free movement of workers and also recruitment. So we are now 30 years old, and we will give you information, advice, and also placement for our services. We are around in 31 countries, so 27 member states, and also Norway, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Switzerland. You can count about 1,000 EURES advisors. And we also have some support for mobility schemes. So this is TMES, Targeted Mobility Scheme. We can support you financially to participate in interviews, for language courses, for relocation, also for your family, and for professional and academic recognition. So I don't want to take a lot of time, just to say that in Portugal, you can find us. This is our link tree. You can find us through our web pages. Also, you can find your EURES advisor nearest to your location. Also in Europe. So if you wish to find out who is the nearest EURES advisor, you can check also EURES portal, so eures.europa.eu. We have a lot of different services. For instance, you can chat on Fridays. You can also choose to book an online advice, and also follow us in our social media and also in our job days and webinar events. So this is it for me. I will pass it now to Dina from Work in Denmark. Thank you, and let's start.
Thank you very much, Dora. And before I begin, I would just express my gratitude towards EURES Portugal for enabling us to have this webinar today. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. And now welcome to all the participants. We are so grateful for the interest that you have shown to Denmark and that you're willing to spend an hour in our company to learn more about living and working, and even so important, the great career opportunities Novo Nordisk has to offer. Some of you have already sent in some questions when you registered for the event. I have tried to include it in my presentation, so hopefully I'll give you all the answers that you wanted. However, should there be any questions, you're more than welcome to ask them in the chat, where my colleague Jürgen and Matthias will answer your questions as best possible. So now, let's get started with the presentation. Good. So, to begin with, who are work in Denmark? Well, we are a governmental organization, and we're part of the Danish Ministry of Employment. We're also EURES representatives, EURES Denmark, the European network that Dora just told you about, promoting this free mobility across the European borders. What we do on a daily basis is that we help international candidates when they want to travel to Denmark to live and work. So we help them in many ways, from finding a job, writing to, an application, and also more practical matters when they arrive here in Denmark. We guide and advise you on where you can find the necessary information. At the same time, we work very close together with the Danish companies. Many Danish companies are looking for qualified candidates, and we try to connect international candidates with the companies. So that's what we do on a daily basis. Now, I don't know how much you know about Denmark. I guess you know a little something, but here's a few facts. Well, first off, we are a small country. We're only 6 million inhabitants. And of these 6 million inhabitants, actually 12% were not even born here. So it just goes to show that we have a very strong tradition in welcoming international candidates like yourself into our country. We are a very flat country, so our highest point is no more than 171 meters above sea level. So we don't have that many mountains, really only hills. But what we do have is along a lot of coastline. So no matter where you are in Denmark, you'll be no more than 50 kilometers from the sea. And this is something we really enjoy doing this summer. So some of the questions we received were about the Danish culture. What defines the Danish culture? Well, a lot of you might have heard about the concept hygge. It's a very Danish word. And what is hygge? Hygge is really spending time with the people that you love, whether it's family or friends. So in this cold period of time where we are now, it's really staying inside, playing games, and just spending time together. We're very good at being cozy together. And then a lot of internationals also say that we have this ever-changing weather. And but we take it with a good spirit, and there's a saying called "There's no bad weather, only bad clothing." And then the word trust really goes to show both the culture and the work culture in Denmark. We trust each other, and we're also a very safe country. So trustworthy and safe is what you'll experience if you would like to go to Denmark. A little example of this trust is it's very common to see strollers standing outside in the street, whether it's in front of a building or in front of a cafe. So these strollers, the infants will be sleeping outside unattended because we trust each other to take care. Some also asked us whether the wages kind of aligns with the cost of living. And a good example of this is the Big Mac index. This goes to show that we have quite a high living standard. So you can see here that in Denmark you need to work 17 minutes, and then you can buy this big bag, if that's what you like. And if you compare it to Portugal, Spain, and Italy, it's quite lower. Then people always ask me when we go to fairs and I talk to internationals, but Dina, you pay so high taxes. And yes, we do. But if you look at what we get for these taxes, we're very privileged because we have, for example, free education. And we will even pay you to take an education in Denmark. We have free elderly care. We have free health care. So it's a very transparent system where you can see what you get for all these taxes. And then we don't have so many expenses when we paid our taxes. So I think that's quite nice. And again, very secure. And speaking about trust, I would like to show you a small video that I think is very saying about this trust society that we have. So I hope you enjoy.
There's no sound.
Thank you for saying I forgot. I hope you enjoyed the small video. Another question that was raised by some of the participants is it easy coming to Denmark and being part of the society? Well, here we have gathered some few tips on what you can do to make your journey to Denmark easier and to get to know the Danes a bit more. Well, a lot of Danes enjoy this work-life balance because we have a lot of spare time. And a lot of the spare time we spend on being a member of different associations, such as football or handball, tennis, dancing, food courses, or what you might be interested in. This is really a good way of meeting the Danes and creating a social network. We also have a very strong tradition in going to different events where we can enjoy and have a little fun with each other. Events like music festivals or street parties, or whatever you think is interesting. And of course, we spend a lot of time also with our friends and our family. And I think a key word, if you want to get integrated into Denmark, is take initiative. Danes can be a little hard to get to know, but if you reach out to us, maybe ask us for a cup of coffee or a beer after work, we will definitely let you know. And now you will have a friend that's very loyal afterwards. You can also, of course, go and enjoy Denmark. We have many great destinations, whether you go to what we call cold Hawaii, skiing on the top of Denmark, or amusement parks. But this is a good way to be a part of our society. Okay, let me just see where I can switch the slide. There we go. Perfect. So now we looked at kind of the private part of the Danish culture. So now let's dive a little more into what defines the Danish work culture. One of the first things that comes on top of my mind is our very flat hierarchy. This is also something that foreigners, internationals often mention. And what does that mean? Well, it really means that no matter if you are the manager or you are in a junior position or the cleaning lady, all employees in a workplace has equal value. It's just the task that defines what we do. And that is keyed very good together with equality. We have very high sense of equality. Again, no matter if you're 20 or you're 55, all has to be listened to and all ideas are taken serious. Internationals often say that they can be somewhat confused when they come into their first workday in a company because they can't really point out who's the manager and who's a common worker. And it's because we are very informal, both in our way of communicating and our clothing. But again, it talks to this flat hierarchy and this equality. Then we tend to do a lot of our work in teams. So that is definitely something you need to be aware about. And then we come back to this word trust, because it's not only in our private life that we trust each other, it's also in a workplace. So the manager won't micromanage your work. They will trust that you're in control of your task, and should you need help, you will let them know. Again, coming back to the questions, some asked, what about language? Do you need to speak Danish, or can I learn Danish along the way? Well, 86% of all Danish, they communicate very well in English. And many of the big companies even have English as their corporate language. So you don't need to speak Danish to come and work in Denmark. However, we always recommend that if you would like to stay in Denmark for a longer period of time, it can make life outside of work a bit easier if you have to communicate with your teachers on the school or maybe in these associations. And Danish courses are offered for free when you have a contract with a Danish company. I think it's always important not only to look at how we see our society, but how does internationals see it and what do they say? Because that's the ones you can relate to the most because they already took the journey that you're considering. And when we look at what they emphasize, it aligns pretty good with what I've been saying, actually. So they highlight this very high level of security. We have a good work-life balance. They really enjoy that. We are very highly digitalized. We use a lot of advanced technologies. So that could also be an area where you can develop your competences. We have this high standard of living, which goes to show to the Big Mac Index. And then they mention this flat hierarchy. And on Work in Denmark's homepage, I would really encourage you to go in and read some of the questionnaires we have been answering different internationals, but even more important, we have made some expat videos where you can take inspiration in the journey and the story from other internationals that has already come to Denmark. So that's a recommendation. Now, what defines our labor market? That's also very interesting for you, I would think. So I've already been mentioning this work-life balance. So we work 37 hours a week. That might not be that unusual, but what is really important about this is that the manager will respect that when you're off, you're off. They won't call you and have you do some emergency tasks. So we do have a lot of time to enjoy our spare time. Then we have 6 weeks of paid vacation, which is quite nice if you ask me. And we typically spread them all out throughout the year. And if you look at surveys, the Danes and also the internationals in Denmark, they say that they have a very high job satisfaction. And why might that be? Well, I think one of the things is that we have this concept of lifelong learning, meaning that you're not only encouraged, but you're actually expected to keep upskilling yourself. And again, it doesn't matter if you're 20 in a junior position or you're 55 in a manager's position. You need to keep upskilling yourself and being updated on the job market. And then the second thing I would emphasize is that we typically enjoy that we have such a high influence on decision-making processes in our company. But not only in the decision-making, but also in our own daily task. We have a lot of influence in our own work. So now we've been talking about the private culture, the work culture. Now let's look at what the current shortages are in Denmark. So what profiles are Danish companies typically looking for? Well, we are looking for both highly qualified and skilled workers. Highly qualified, it's basically more or less all profiles, but especially engineers, IT specialists, specialists within life science, medical, business and finance, and researchers. And if we focus on the skilled workers, we are looking for profiles within the hospitality, construction, industry and manufacturing, healthcare, and transport and logistics. Now, of course, we have some sectors that are more dominant than others. And if you look at it, Denmark excels very much within renewable energy, whether it's wind, solar, or water. Also, life science is quite big in Denmark. 20% of the Danish GDP comes from the life science sector, so that's very important. And then ICT and robotics. We also have some clusters that might be interesting for you as a job seeker wanting to look towards Denmark. These clusters are really a gathering of, a gathering of companies within specific areas. So if you look at the Innovation District Copenhagen, this is a combination of public organization, university, students, and small startup companies. Medican Valley Alliance is a Danish-Swedish collaboration, really supporting the life science industry within the greater area of Copenhagen. And last but not least, we have Odense Robotics that focus and are very strong within robotics and drones. They're actually world known for their innovative way of approaching this area. And now, why am I mentioning these clusters? Well, for you as a job seeker, it's a good place to find relevant companies that might be interesting to look for a job with. So that's a small tip when it comes to finding job opportunities. So I can see I'm almost running out of time, so I need to speed up a little. But I do think the video from Jes Andersen talks really about not to be afraid of taking the decision to come to Denmark. So I think we should invest the time and just look at the video. Again, I hope you'll enjoy.
Dina, the sound seems to be on, but very, very quietly.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. Thank you, Kat.
There's a
So like I said, don't worry. Good. So of course the companies are looking for loads of different profiles, but it's not only the profiles with 1, 5, or 10 years of experience. Many of the companies are also open in taking in graduates in these specific graduate programs. I don't have the time to go into depth with these programs, but it's really unique programs, making sure that you have the support that you need to be successful in your first job, and a position where you can explore different angles and different departments within the company. But if you want to read more about it, on our homepage, you can find a page dedicated to these graduate programs, and where you can see all the companies that are looking for graduates and what kind of profiles. And should there be candidates with us today that maybe have finished their bachelor's and now they stand in front of a decision whether they should keep on studying or maybe they should get this crucial experience within the labor market? This program offers actually a combination of the two, where you have a part-time job of 25 hours and then you take your master's on outside of work. If you want to read more about that, you can go to Technical University Denmark, also go DTU, and read more about that program. And the last slide for me is really just showing you our webpage, because today we're giving you a lot of information, and afterwards it can be difficult to remember it all. But from our side, there's only two things you need to remember. Workindenmark.dk, where you can find information on finding a job, applying for the job. What about housing and more practical matters? We have tried to gather all the information on our homepage. So workindenmark.dk, and the second part is, remember, Work in Denmark, EURES Denmark, our job and our intentions are always to help international candidates in their journey to Denmark. So if you need any help or support, you can always reach out to Work in Denmark. Good. And here you can see, you can reach us on email or on phone. So that was all for me.
Thank you, Dina. That was a wonderful presentation.